Welcome to Signals and Stories, 10 Years with the Vertex Project, a limited series exploring how cyber threat intelligence has evolved over the past decade. In each episode, we break down how analysts actually investigate, covering the data and the decisions that shape real-world intelligence. Stay tuned. All right. Hello and welcome to our limited series. Today, our guest is someone who has become well known for challenging conventional thinking in cyber threat intelligence. I'm very excited to be welcoming this person. She's a threat intelligence practitioner, speaker, children's book author, and the creator of the Cognitive Stairways of Analysis framework, which helps analysts think more clearly and communicate more effectively. I was interested in speaking with her as part of the series because one of her graphics, which is hard cyber threat intel pills to swallow, sparked a lot of conversation online, especially across the threat intelligence community, by highlighting some uncomfortable truths about the profession. So today we're digging into those ideas, why they resonated with so many people, and what they mean for analysts and intelligence teams. Please welcome Nicole Hoffman.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on today.
Of course. Thank you for being here. So for those that might not know you, can you tell our audience just a little bit about yourself and your cyber threat intel path?
Yeah, sure. I'm currently a senior threat intelligence analyst at Cisco, and I've been in the field for about 10 years, primarily focused on cybercrime and ransomware operations. I actually came into the field from the medical field. I actually was studying nursing before I switched over into um, cybersecurity, and then I found threat intelligence and fell in love and haven't looked back.
That's really cool. Like, what made you want to switch from nursing to cyber threat intel?
So my husband was in the Marine Corps and we got stationed in a not super safe area.
Oh,
And I was at the point in my nursing degree that I needed to go in person for like labs and things like that. And I just didn't feel super safe. I was pregnant with my first son. And so I didn't want to just stop going to school. And so my husband was already in cybersecurity in the Marine Corps. And so he actually had like textbooks and things like that. And I was like, well, I could use it as like a fallback. And then maybe like when he gets out, I'll go back into nursing. But I fell in love with it. And I was like, there's no way I can go back to nursing.
oh wow, but that's so interesting. And you've become really prolific on LinkedIn, like with cyber threat intel. Like I've been really enjoying following you. Like you've done like the lady whistle down adjacent stuff. Like it's really cool. I'm sorry, what do you call her again? That character?
Lady Threat Hunter Girl.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love those. And you make your own graphics. It looks like. And
Sometimes I make them. Sometimes I redo them from other graphics. So
that's
I
okay.
will say I do steal graphics sometimes.
That's okay. You steal like an artist. Which is one of my favorite books. So what was the inspiration to create hard cyber threat pills to swallow? And we're audio and video for those that are just tuning into this podcast. So we'll share the graphic on the video, but we'll also share the graphic on our show notes too, so people can catch up with that. But yeah, what made you want to create that?
So I actually saw it on Instagram. The original artist, her handle is, I think it's Endo with Zara or Endo by Zara. And I suffer with a condition called endometriosis, and it was originally a graphic about endometriosis and hard pills to swallow. And I saw it and immediately thought, man, I can think of quite a few hard pills to swallow in cyber threat intelligence. And so I just edited it to be about cyber threat intelligence. And that's kind of how I made it. I didn't expect it to have as big of impact on the community that it did have. I was just thinking like, it's funny for me because I can relate to a lot of the things.
Yeah, like how'd you decide like which pills that you wanted to add to the graphic? Like are they from personal experience or from, the community? Like, how'd you decide like what made it to the graphic and maybe what didn't?
It so I did have a couple that didn't make it only because there's only so many pills in the graphic. So there was a couple extra ones. I think some of them I had to kind of put together and see like what am I most passionate about and what may be relatable to other people, but it's all things that I have personally dealt with.
Mhm.
And that's like when I created it, I wasn't sure, really with any content that you create and you put on LinkedIn, you don't know how much of it is going to be relatable to other people and how much is just going to be like maybe this is a niche thing that just I deal with
Mhm.
because everyone's teams are so different. And so I basically made a list of all the things that are hard pills, maybe some hot takes in there as well.
That's really cool. And we've alluded to this, that the response has been really like better than maybe you thought it would be initially. Like what was your reaction to that?
Honestly, I was very surprised. And a lot of the times when I'm making graphics or editing graphics, I am very hard on myself because I'm like, I want it to be perfect. And, I use tools like Canva or like certain art apps and I'm trying to like make it look cute and use the right font. And this particular one, I use my own handwriting. So I was like, I don't think anyone's going to like it that much because it's not the most clean of graphics. So I was really happy that it took off on social media and I started also seeing it in like private intel chats that I'm in.
Cool.
Um, so that was really awesome. And then just being seen, like knowing that there's other people that deal with the same thing, that have the same issues that I deal with, and these hard pills to swallow. I'm not alone, and so it kind of cured a little bit of imposter syndrome that I might have, especially with posting on LinkedIn. Sometimes my posts can be a little unhinged.
No, I don't think so. I've been following, like, not to be creepy, but I've been following you for a while, and I'm just like, I love all of these. They're so entertaining.
I'm glad.
So people shared it. Would you say that the reaction was most people were in agreement with what you had, outlined on the graphic, or, did like what kind of commentary were you noticing?
Mostly everyone's saying things like so true, like perfection. There was a couple people like that were mad about the attribution thing, but it is a controversial topic in the industry.
Yeah.
And there were a few people that um, kind of reworded things that I said in like a really insightful way. And I was like, wow, I hadn't thought about it like that, but that is very true. And also kind of painful because it like, if you make the hard pill more understandable, then it kind of like, it's like, it hurts a little bit more.
Yeah. Do you remember like some of the like rephrased comments that people made that resonated with
Yeah.
you?
So one guy in particular, and I apologize if I mispronounce your name, but I believe it's pronounced Christoph Jomsky. He had reshared the post and was basically saying that he is in agreement. But one of the things that I really liked that he said was that, our value in cyber threat intelligence, it's not in volume, but it's an insight.
Mm,
And that's very true. And it hurts sometimes because there's so many crossovers between threat intelligence and like journalism. Like
yeah.
you constantly want to be storytelling and you constantly want to be informing people. And when there's not a lot going on, you almost feel like, am I not doing my job? But we all have to remember, our job is not just to have interesting stories, it's to inform the business when it needs to be informed about threats. And sometimes, it could be, quieter times than not. And so I think that was a really good reminder. And it did hurt a little bit. I was like, I needed to hear that because I do forget about it sometimes.
Were there other people that had other hard, like quote unquote hard pills that they would have liked to have seen on the graphic, do you think? Or
I didn't get too many. I think that one was a good one. I don't think he necessarily meant it to be a hard pill, but I definitely took it as one. One of my friends did reach out to me when she was complimenting the graphic, and she did say I really resonate with the, like rewriting the news one, because she has to remind herself that interesting doesn't always mean insightful or actionable.
Hmm.
And so there's some things that she really wants to write about because she personally finds it interesting. And she has to remember that maybe the leadership at our organization isn't as interested in that specific malware family. And I think that's a really great one. And I also need to think about that, as I have previously been in threat research, and now I'm doing more like enterprise security CTI. So I have to kind of keep my focus on what's important to the business versus what I'm interested in as an analyst.
That's really interesting, though. As an analyst, do you think they overlap a lot, or have you found when you were doing more research, like there was more of a delineation between this is what I'm interested in versus this is what the business needs to move forward?
I I think it's hard for me to say like what other people deal with, but like in terms of my journey, I started um doing threat research and then kind of moved into doing more like threat hunting and um like enterprise CTI, where I'm not worried about like the entire threat landscape. I'm worried about like what's impacting just one organization. And it is challenging because I really enjoy things like ransomware operations. I
Mhm.
love keeping up with ransom, like, what's happening in that scene, what new groups are coming, what is the evolution of these groups as they, change and rebrand. But that's not always the most important thing. And so I think it's really important to have, if you're doing traditional intelligence, to have things like priority intelligence requirements and priority threat actors, so that you're not just trying to ingest everything, because if everything is high priority, then obviously nothing is.
And that was one of the hard pills too, was the
Yes.
yeah, if everything is high
Yeah.
priority. Yeah, and like I guess like do you have any advice to people on like how to better prioritize what they're seeing and how to make it not make everything an emergency necessarily?
Right. I call them panic cycles. And I think I don't necessarily know how to word it in a way that would be a great, brief, hard pill to swallow, but it is very hard to avoid panic cycles, especially with, how much, like, we have a really large field, but sometimes it feels very small. So, like, when something big happens, everyone is talking about it. And it could seem like a bigger problem than it actually is. So I would say definitely focus on your industry, what's being what's targeting in your industry, who's targeting, are other organizations within the same industry being targeted? Um, Obviously paying attention to what technology that you actually have. So obviously if you don't have a certain technology and a big 0 day comes out, then like if you don't really have to worry about it if you know that you don't have that technology. The other thing I would say is that one of the most valuable threat feeds that you could subscribe to is your own SOC's incident queue.
Okay.
So I feel like a lot of threat intelligence analysts, if they're supporting like an enterprise security situation, you should be aware of what's going on at your organization. You can get a lot of insightful feedback as terms of um, like for example, if you're looking at blogs, like external blogs, you're going to see like what could happen to your organization. But if you're looking at your incident queue, you're looking at what did happen, like who's actually targeting your organization. And if you start taking metrics from that, I think it is a lot more insightful. And you can start seeing like what's actually happening, how is it happening, how are we doing, um, and start from there.
Is it something that you've seen in your tenure of people, following like that panic cycle of, oh, like this is the new hot group that I'm worried about or that everybody's worried about and it's taken away their focus and had that negative impact? Like, do you have an example like that? Or am I just
I do. I won't name it. In
Yeah, no, don't name
previous,
names or anything
yes,
like that.
obviously I'm not going to name names, but I will say something I know a lot of people can understand and relate to is a lot of times leadership or CISOs will kind of just drop things into chats, and they may not know the weight that that holds. So they might drop something about look at this new malware that came out, or this click fix campaign. Because of the person that shared it, we now feel like we have to become situationally aware about that thing. But it may be that he's just sharing it for situational aware, or he or she. So there is that aspect of like sometimes you want to make sure that you're keeping everyone informed, and that's why one of the hard pills was, peace of mind reporting is a large portion of our job. So sometimes just being able to uh, review something and assess it and say like, hey, this is what this is, and like this is a current risk to our organization. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like a whole full blown 10-page report. Sometimes it's just a matter of like taking a breath, reading it, and then asking questions like, hey, what's the end goal here? Like, is this
Right.
something that you're concerned about? How can I help you not be concerned about it? um, Helps a lot. The other thing is, having intelligence requirements does help. It is a hill that I will die on. And I think it's challenging because there's a lot of threat intelligence teams that are focused more on like threat research versus like traditional um, intelligence. And I think it's not necessarily that they're doing anything wrong. I think it just depends on what their specific business needs at that point in time. And sometimes it is a wide understanding of the entire threat landscape. But teams are only so big, so they can't focus on everything. So it's like
Mhm.
you have to prioritize, or you're just going to be burnt out all the time.
Right. And I just wanted to come back to like the idea of like the CISO, just making it like maybe like an offhanded remark in like a chat. Like so it comes down to, from what I'm understanding, like, maybe they said that kind of offhandedly, but because they didn't say like, for your situational awareness,
Right.
that makes people be like, oh, like this is coming down from somebody in the C-suite. So like I guess would you say better communication between a CISO and the rest of the team would help alleviate that pill, make it a little easier to swallow?
Yeah. And I mean, and sometimes it's not necessarily that. Sometimes they might email and say, like, hey, what do we know about this? But I think having those individuals understand the weight that their um, requests uh, have, because analysts are overthinkers by nature. So if you don't fill in the gap of what you need, we might fill it in for you, which could result in a panic cycle.
Right. It's like I'm sure you've seen like the online meme too, where it's like, I need my boss to put in when they say like quick meeting, I need them to also follow it up with nothing bad or something
Right.
like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you will panic about it.
Yeah.
It is very similar because we want to make sure we keep them informed. And I think we also want to make sure there's nothing that we're not aware of. So I think
Mhm.
that's another part of it is it's also hard to prioritize on certain things that are important because you feel like you're gonna miss out on something that maybe could be impactful to the organization.
Right. Absolutely. So as our listeners know, like the series explores how CTI has changed in the last decade. So I was interested from your perspective, what would your graphic have looked like a decade ago? Do you think it would have been a lot different, or would there have been some consistencies? Just, what's your perception?
I think it's painful to say it probably would look similar. Like I thought about like um it is challenging because a lot of these are good lessons for any point in time, in the future, in the past. And I think back then, like 10 years ago, like when I was first starting to get into threat intelligence, it was very much a buzzword
Mhm.
still. I don't think it's as widespread as it is now. Um, and so I feel like there was a lot of educating stakeholders on like what threat intelligence is and what it's capable of. Um, but also, I'm also doing that now. So maybe a hard pill that I would add would be like something like educating your stakeholders about like the full capability of CTI could result in more like meaningful and impactful RFI questions.
Hmm. Okay, interesting. Would you say some of so I guess like to answer my own question, like I was wondering if some of these would be evergreen, but if this would look a lot the same from 10 years ago, I guess the answer would be yes, a lot of it is evergreen.
I think so. I think it would most of them would be. I don't think was as many like threat intelligence tools back then. So I think maybe I would probably remove that one.
Okay.
Because I think that's a lesson that we learned within the last 10 years.
So it would be speculation, but do you see this chart or this graphic being very similar 10 years from now, or do you think that there would be a lot of additions or maybe even subtractions in 10 years?
I hope there would be some subtractions. I feel like it would make me feel more hopeful about the field. Probably something that I would add would be, reminding people that your analytic instincts and your gut feelings based on your experience, it can't be replicated with automations and artificial intelligence tools. Like these tools can definitely be helpful, make your life easier, maybe lead to quicker analysis. But at the end of the day, threat intelligence at its core is based on human analysis that we care about you. If you're the one analyzing the data, I want your opinion.
Mhm. That actually dovetails nicely into the next question I had, which was, what did you mean by the pill tools don't make you a better analyst? Well, obviously, we don't want to be back in like the Excel days of like everything's in like an Excel doc, hopefully. But can you expand on what tools are there some that would make you a better analyst or yeah, just your opinion?
I think Excel will always be the greatest CTI tool.
Really?
I don't think I can ever stop using it, but I do I do agree. Like we need to move forward. We need to automate some things. But basically, what I meant by that was that tools can help you collect data, enrich data, organize it. But the experience that you have really teaches you to determine like what actually matters, what
Mhm.
doesn't matter, what can you ignore. It teaches you how to really think critically and make intelligence assessments. And I feel like tools can really speed up your analysis because they're, organizing the data so you have less work to do trying to organize it. Um, and it can make your life easier, but you don't necessarily need fancy tools to be able to have like an impactful threat intelligence team. And even if you get the tools, it's like, you have to know how to use them. Like you can't just make you can just make dashboards that are pretty, but like are they actually useful or are they just pretty,
Yeah. Yeah. Do they actually reveal what you need them to do, or like does it make things harder or make things more confusing, but they're pretty.
Right. And I think one of the hard things for analysts to learn over time is to trust your own instincts. And there's this huge fear of being wrong.
Mhm.
And that's normal and it happens over time. So I think you have to kind of force yourself to learn that before you start relying on tools.
I gotcha. For you, what do you think is the absolute hardest pill to swallow?
So I think I've already swallowed it, but I would say it took me a lot of years. It was very hard. I was very passionate about it, and it is probably the most controversial of the pills, which is that usually attribution doesn't matter. And I say that from not a threat research focus, but an enterprise security focus. When I was focused on threat research, it mattered a lot to me because I wanted to tell the story. I wanted to find something new or, add to someone else's story. Um, and it's like a good mystery, trying to
Yeah.
figure out who done it. But when I switched into enterprise security, I care less about attribution and more about informing the organization and assessing risk. Like sometimes the attribution can assist in those things, but at the end of the day, most of the time, leadership isn't going to care about the evolution of a specific ransomware group.
That's interesting. And I agree with you. I do think it makes a nice bookend to say, oh, I've done this and I can conclude that it's such and such group, but it doesn't always work as cleanly the way that, popular media would portray it. So that's interesting. But which pill would you prescribe to every new analyst entering the field? Like, what would you want them to pay attention to the most?
Probably that, two of them. Probably that you're going to be wrong sometimes. And I think I should have, like looking back, I probably should have added like, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Like it's okay that you're going to be wrong. You're not perfect. A lot of times in the field, we have to do a lot of, future casting and predicting. And it's challenging at first because especially when you don't have a lot of experience. And so it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to, have confidence assessments. And then the other one I would say is that, nobody's going to, care about your intel as much as you do.
Why is that?
Well, and I mean that not in like a rude way, but it's kind of like when you give a presentation as well. Like if you do a conference presentation, no one's gonna care as deeply as you do. So it's okay if you make a mistake. Like no one, people are very forgiving
Yeah.
and it's okay. And so you don't have to stress out too much, especially when you're first getting into writing intelligence reports. You feel like you need to provide every single detail when you don't. It's okay. Like let's focus on um, the facts and how you got there, and you're trusting your own instincts as well.
Yeah, and that kind of ties into that other pill that's on the graphic of like your 10-page report could have been 3 pages or
Yeah.
something like that.
So,
Like it didn't have to be that long.
someone shared a quote. I don't remember the person that shared it. I apologize. I didn't write it down, but someone did share a quote that said, my report was too long because I didn't have time to make it shorter. And I'm like, that's so true because
Oh,
it is a lot of work to condense things into like what
yes.
actually matters.
Oh, wow. I like that quote a lot. Like I hope whoever said that can chime in when we share this, so maybe we can give them the credit. But yeah, that's really interesting. And I think too, when we're in school, you have to write a 10-page report, but then you get to the real world and they're like, condense it for me in 3 sentences.
Right. And I've actually gone through training before of like how to write in as little words as possible, getting to the
Mhm.
point, cutting out, the fancy terms. It is sometimes nice when you start learning how to write more eloquently in threat intelligence that you want to start using all the fancier like, oh, the adversary.
Yeah.
But it's not always necessary.
And that's, and I know we're kind of like getting off topic a little bit here, and I'm taking us in that direction, but that's what, from a marketing perspective and a comms perspective, like that's what some social media is good for, like Blue Sky, Mastodon, X/Twitter, like like they have, well, not Mastodon so much, but like the other two have the limits on how much you can put in a post, and it really is like a really good teacher in brevity, if you look at it from that angle rather than like doom scrolling and things like that. But like if you wanted to teach yourself like how to write in more short form, that's a really good way to do it.
It's painful. I would say as someone that creates, tries to push out content, like LinkedIn is so great because you could just write out like this essay.
Right.
But then when you try to like reshare that same content across other social media platforms, you're like, okay, what's the most important thing?
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I've noticed, like I've seen that on LinkedIn too. I feel like within maybe the last year or 18 months, I'm seeing lots of paragraphs on LinkedIn. I'm like, people are giving me lots to read. So I don't know if you've noticed that too, where people
It is, yeah.
share oh,
I'm
yeah.
one of the people that read it. Like if your post has like ... and then I click it and it like opens up, I'm gonna read it. Like,
well, at least with yours especially, I'm like, it came with graphics too, and that makes me want to read it
I
more
try
because I'm
really
just
hard.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just like, there were pictures that came with it, and that's fun.
Yeah. And sometimes when I'm if I'm really busy with other things and I don't necessarily have time to write a caption with it, it will just be me relying on the graphic to send the message. And I've found that works really well. And it's not as unhinged as I thought it would be. I was like, is it unhinged to just share a graphic and then a little emoji on LinkedIn? But it's going well so far.
Yeah, awesome. All right. If there was one uncomfortable truth about threat intelligence that if every analyst accepted tomorrow, like which of these pills would have the most positive impact on the profession, in your opinion?
Definitely my opinion are my own. um, it's definitely the attribution one.
Okay.
But specifically, not that I think everyone should stop caring about it, but that, you know, it's not always going to be the best way to inform the business. And I feel like if you're doing enterprise security CTI, or even if you're a vendor doing like threat intel as a service to a customer, I feel like we should focus less on threat actors with like cartoon, animal, weather, astrology, supervillain names, even though it sounds cool and it's fun to talk about, and more time like actually assessing risks to this specific organization. Like if you're focusing on a school in Minnesota, maybe don't tell them about a threat that's only targeting Ukrainian banks.
Mhm.
Like we gotta, even if it's interesting, we gotta reel it in a little bit. And I think that goes back to that statement my friend said where, interesting isn't always insightful.
Mhm. Well, I appreciate you being here today, Nicole. Like, this has been a great conversation. Is there anything that you'd like to plug, like any conferences you'll be speaking at or any upcoming publications that, everybody should be on the lookout for?
I will be at DEF CON. I'm not speaking or anything, but if anyone wants to say hello, they can. Um, I did just recently publish 2 more books to my children's book series. If you're interested in them, excuse me, they are on my website. Which is threathuntergirl.com. They're all available on Amazon, but they're all linked on my website. And they basically introduce kids to the world of cybersecurity through like a medieval tale. So I have the mighty threat intelligence warrior, the mighty reverse engineer, the mighty CISO, and the mighty incident responder. You can see the trend that I'm doing. And they basically focus on the day-to-day tasks that you would do within those roles
Okay.
to see, not only to get them interested in STEM, but also show them there's so many niche careers that you can get into within cybersecurity.
That is so cool. Honestly, I know we're like wrapping it up. I want to talk more about that though.
Yeah, so there's like or the reverse engineer. She's actually a witch. So instead of studying code, because there's good code and bad code, she's studying spells in different languages. And there's good spells that lead to good potions and bad spells that lead to bad potions.
That
And
is so
instead of,
cool.
yeah, like a sandbox, she has like an enchanted greenhouse to like capture all of her bad spells. And so there's a lot of analogies and metaphors. And at the end of the books, I didn't start it until like book 3, but now all of them have an appendix at the end called Curiosity Castle, and they explain the metaphors. So it'll say like, why does she have this? And it'll say, well, actually, reverse engineers in real life.
That's really cool. I'm going to get that for me.
Yeah.
I got to check that out.
Yeah, it's a very fun project. And I do have free coloring pages on my website as well. So if anyone enjoys coloring as much as I do.
Awesome. We'll connect people to those on our show notes for sure. If people wanted to find you and reach out, what would be the best way for them to do that?
So if you go on my website, threathuntergirl.com, I have all of my social media linked.
Okay.
I'm
Perfect.
probably most active on LinkedIn, but I do have all of the social medias.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nicole, for joining us today. I am so appreciative of you being here, and I hope our listeners enjoyed it as well. And we will catch you in the next episode of our limited series. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Signals and Stories. If you found this episode useful, be sure to follow the series and share it with your team. For more on how the Vertex project approaches intelligence, from data modeling to real investigations, visit vertex.link. We'll see you in the next episode.